Hare Krishna. Again, welcome to our evening katha. We hope all of you are safe and sound and taking this opportunity to increase your bhajan and your hearing and chanting. Today we're going to go to a few places around Radha Kund, and specifically, mainly we'll be at Raghunath Das Goswami's Bhajan Kutir. So to start today's program, we'll sing a very wonderful song you all know. It was very favorite of Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Vrindavan. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Vrindavan. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Vrindavan. Sri Govinda Gopinata Madana Moha. Sri Govinda Gopinata Madana Moha. Shama Kunda, Radha Kunda, Giri Govardhan. Shama Kunda, Radha Kunda, Giri Govardhan. Kalindi Jamuna, Jaya Jaya Mahaba. Kalindi Jamuna, Jaya Jaya Mahava. Keshigata Bamsi Bhata Dvadashakana. Keshigata Bamsi Bhata Dvadashakana. Jasavadila Koilo Srinandananda. Jasavadila Koilo Srinandananda. Srinandaya Sora Jaya Jaya Gopagan. Srinandaya Jaya Jaya Gopagan. Sri Damari Jaya Jaya Dhenuvatagan. Sri Damari Jaya Jaya Dhenuvatagan. Jaya Vrishabhanu Jaya Kirtida Sundari. Jaya Vrishabhanu Jaya Kirtida Sundari. Jaya Purnamasi Jaya Viranagari. Jaya Purnamasi Jaya Viranagari. Jaya Jaya Gopishwara Vrindavanama. Jaya Jaya Gopishwara Vrindavanama. Jaya Jaya Krishna Sakha Bhattu Dvijara. Jaya Jaya Krishna Bhattu Dvijara. Jaya Rama Gata Jaya Rohini Nanda. Jaya Rama Gata Jaya Rohini Nanda. Jaya Jaya Vrindavana Vasijata Jaya. Jaya Jaya Vrindavana Vasi Jataja Jaya Dvija Potni Jaya Naga Kanyaga Jaya Dvija Potni Jaya Naga Kanyaga Bhakti Tejahara Pailo Govinda Chara Bhakti Tejahara Pailo Govinda Chara Sri Rasa Mandala Jaya Jaya Radha Shyam Sri Rasa Mandala Jaya Jaya Radha Shyam Jaya Jaya Rasa Lila Sarva Manoram Jaya Jaya Rasa Lila Sarva Manoram Jaya Jaya Ujjvala Rasa Sarva Rasa Sar Jaya Jaya Ujjvala Rasa Sarva Rasa Sar Parakiya Bhave Jaha Brajete Prachar Parakiya Bhave Jaha Brajete Prachar Sri Janava Pada Padma Koriya Smara Sri Janava Pada Padma Koriya Smara Deena Krishna Dasa Koe Nama Sankirtan Deena Krishna Dasa Koe Nama Sankirtan Jaya Vrindavan Dham 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 Vrindavan Dham Vrindavan Dham Jaya Vrindavan Dham Vrindavan Dham Jaya Vrindavan Dham Jaya Vrindavan Dham Jaya Vrindavan Dham Bolo Sri Brajabhumi Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Jai Sri Radhe Shyam. So again, we welcome you all to our evening katha, and we hope that you're all safe and sound and taking advantage of this time to increase your bhajan. Today we're going to go a few places around Radha Kund, mostly around Raghunath Das Goswami's bhajan kutir. And we're sitting here in the conference room in the guest house. Somehow or other today, though it's supposed to be very hot, it's raining outside, so we're inside today. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksurun Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manubhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapadandigam Adadana Srinandandai Ridamyache Puna Puna Srimad Rupa Padambujo Dulisyam Janma Janmani Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Panchakalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhubheva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. So the day we were in Radha Kund, we went to the Sangam, where we know that book distribution was born. Srila Prabhupada was walking with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, and his Prabhupada told him that if you ever get money, print books. So this Radha Kund Sangam, where the two kunds meet, this is for the ISKCON devotees most sacred places. This is where book distribution was born. Next, right on the Sangam, there's a rather large temple called Banki Bihari Temple, Bihariji Temple. Just after that, there's some steps to go up, and we go down a little narrow lane and turn left, and we come to Teen Goswami Samadhi. Raghunath Das Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, and Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. They all left this world on the same tithi, but in different years. Just before Kartik, there's one Dwadasi that we see that all these three Goswamis' disappearance day is there, just before Kartik begins. So since they all left on the same tithi but different years, they made nice Puspa Samadhi here, and this is called Three Goswamis Samadhi. On our left side is Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, on our right side is Raghunath Das Goswami, and back side is Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. After paying our obeisance to the lotus feet of these great personalities, we come back out to the little lane and we turn left, and we come onto a ghat on the banks of Shamakund. This ghat, one of its names is Manasa Pavana Ghat. Because this is where Radharani and her friends, they take their bath before meeting Krishna at Radha Kund in the noontime. Because we know the noontime meeting place is Radha Kund. So just before noon they're bathing here. Lower. So just before noontime, so it's called Manasa Pavana Ghat. And we find a pilu tree growing there. This pilu tree is very special because just in front of us there's a large hall. Inside that hall, the first thing that we'll see is the Bhajan Kutir Srila Biswanath Chakravarti Thakur. So he was doing his bhajan near this pilu tree, and the pilu tree revealed himself as a great Vaishnava, and he began to describe all the pastimes of Radha and Krishna that happen in Radha Kund. Sometimes Radha and Krishna play dice, sometimes they're having water fights. All the different leelas were revealed to Biswanath Chakravarti Thakur. So we enter that big hall. So this is a very special pilu tree, not ordinary pilu tree. Somehow the monkeys keep tearing it up. I keep thinking it's going to disappear, but somehow he manages to maintain from one season to the next. And just last month was a season for the little pilu fruits. We were all under lockdown, so we couldn't go there. But little tiny burgundy colored fruits, little tiny burgundy colored fruits come. They're favorite of Krishna Balaram and the cowherd boys. But you have to eat them very carefully. If you bite them too hard when they're fully ripe, then you'll break the seed inside and burn your tongue like chili. In fact, Jagadananda, when he returned from Braj, Sanatana Goswami had given him some dried pilu fruits along with other things. So Mahaprabhu kept everything, but he distributed the dried pilu fruits to the Bengali devotees. Now this only grows in Braj, it doesn't grow in Bengal. So the Bengali devotee didn't know. Instead of sucking on them, they began to chew, and they were all burning their mouths, and Mahaprabhu was laughing to see the fun. So we come inside that big hall that now our friend, little Babaji from Philippines, Bharvananda Baba, he's putting all nice carved sandstone and making very beautiful place, and he's fixed up Biswanath Chakravarti Thakur's Bhajan Kutir, and he's fixed up the Bhajan Kutir of the Raghunath Das Goswami. So the first Bhajan Kutir we see is that of Krishnadas, Biswanath Chakravarti Thakur. So the next we find the original bhajan kutir, because previously Goswamis were just sitting under trees. We hear in the Sad Goswami Astak that they were spending one night in one place, another night in another place. So they were just spending the night under the trees. So externally they were showing vairagya. We were very attached to having a fixed place to stay, but they were staying one place, one night, one place, another night, no fixed residence. But internally what was going on, the esoteric meaning, is they would sleep in that place, they would understand what pastime would take place there, and then they would mark that down, and this way they were discovering all the pastime places of the Lord Krishna. So Raghunath Das, he came from Puri after Mahaprabhu disappeared, and he was very distraught, as were all the devotees. They were all bearing the pangs of separation. So he decided to come to Braj, and his idea was he would climb to the top of Govardhan Hill, throw himself down head first, and suicide himself. Somehow the Goswamis, especially Sanatana Goswami, he found out about this. And he told him, this is a very bad idea. This will not solve the problem. Because he explained his own situation, that when he went to visit Mahaprabhu, who was coming from Vrindavan, and they met at Kashi, he had gone through the jungle. So he had all kinds of skin rashes, and blood was coming, and pus was oozing. So Mahaprabhu was constantly embracing him, and he was feeling embarrassed. So he thought, when Rath Yatra comes, when he went back to Puri, he thought, when Rath Yatra comes, I'll throw myself under the cart and finish this body, so it won't be a trouble to Mahaprabhu. So he didn't tell anybody his plan, but one day Mahaprabhu came and said, Sanatan, this body belongs to me. You have no right to take its life. I have a lot of work to do through this body. Met services there. Don't even think of this idea. So we should understand, especially if we're initiated, then our body belongs to Guru. So not only is suicide sinful, but it is also destruction of Guru's property. It's a big aparad, destroying Guru's property. So don't think of this. Take shelter of the holy name, take shelter of the Vaishnavas, anyway, anyhow, don't think of this idea. So they told the same thing to Raghunath Das, so he decided not to suicide himself. So for more than 45 years he stayed on the banks of Shama Kund and Radha Kund, doing his bhajan. And he was just sitting under the trees. So inside the bhajan kutir we see a huge painting is there. And on one side of the painting we see that a tiger and tigress has come to drink water from Shama Kund. And Raghunath is just doing his bhajan, not paying any attention, just chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. On the other corner of the painting we see Sanatana Goswami, who was the eldest of all the Goswamis. He came from his bhajan kutir we heard about the other day at Manasikanga. And he saw what was going on. He looked on the other side, and there was Krishna standing there with his hand raised, giving protection to Raghunath from this tiger and tigress. Then tiger and tigress went away. Krishna smiled at Sanatana Goswami and disappeared. Then Sanatana Goswami came and said, what kind of bhajan are you doing? You're chanting Hare Krishna, the Krishna let me serve you. Tiger and tigress has come, you don't pay any attention, and Krishna himself had to come and stand beside you and guard you. What kind of bhajan is this? So Raghunath Das, he fell on the feet of Sanatana Goswami, so I'll be more careful in the future. So another time, Raghunath was sitting there, this time it was summertime. Summertime means the temperature goes to 45 and 50 degrees. 120 to 127, I think, for those Fahrenheit wallahs out there. So they say only mad dog and Englishman go in the noonday sun. But he was sitting there not paying any attention, just chanting his japa, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And you see in the painting, Radharani's taking her pallu, the end of her sari, and holding it over Raghunath Das's head to shade him from the sun. And because she's holding her sari like that, we can see her choli is all wet. She's just sweating and sweating. And our Sanatana Goswami again came, just happened to come that particular day, and he saw this whole scene. Radharani smiled at him and disappeared. Then he came running. Are, what type of bhajan are you doing? You're chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Radha Krishna, let me serve you. You're sitting here in the noonday sun. You don't pay any attention. Radharani was here holding her veil over your head. What is this? You see behind you. Because she was sweating and sweating. The dirt was all muddy. And there was the lotus footprints of Srimati Radhika in the sand. So then Sanatan said, look, if you cannot take care of yourself, you make a bhajan kutir and you do your bhajan in a bhajan kutir. So from here, this bhajan kutir system began. And like I said, Raghunath, he stayed here for 45 years. And his bhajan was like lines on a rock. Just like there's lines on a rock, you can polish and polish and polish, you can scrape it and scrape it and scrape it and grind it and grind it. Those lines do not change at all. His bhajan was like that. Not like us. We think, oh, last night we went to that preaching program, we stayed up till midnight, we'll skip Mangalarti today. Not like us. His bhajan was like lines on a rock. And he spent most of his time doing his bhajan, and just a little time for eating, a little time, couple hours for sleeping. And even his eating, that was just a little leaf cup, we call dona, leaf cup of chach. Now you don't know what is chach. This is our favorite thing in Braj. When we go from village to village, we're just begging chach. Because in Braj, we take the whole milk, turn it into yogurt, and then churn it into butter. So what's left over is the real buttermilk, not like you buy in the store. The real buttermilk is there. Very wonderful thing for the health. So he was just taking a little bit of chach. So Biharidas, who was his servant, was thinking every day he's only taking this little leaf cup of chach. What will happen? So one day Biharidas was on Prikrama, and just near Govardhan town he came to the place known as Sakistali. And in Sakitali he saw the same tree from which they make those leaf cups, but very big leaves were there. So then he took some of those leaves back, and next day he made a big leaf cup and brought that chach to Raghunath. And Raghunath Das was looking at this big leaf cup with curiosity, just like a little child. He was looking all around, so curiously, like a little child. Just like I remember one time in LA, we gave Prabhupada one of those umbrellas that you push the button and it goes boop, boop, and opens up. So Prabhupada, just like a little child, he was seeing it with great curiosity. He pushed the button, boop, boop, then he'd push it into the ground and fold it up, and then boop, boop. So Raghunath was looking like that, with curiosity like a child. And he said, Biharidas, where you got this dona, this leaf cup? He said, well, the other day I was on Prikrama, I was in Sakistali. Sakistali! He threw that leaf cup. That is the place of Chandravali. You never bring anything from Chandravali's place, otherwise I will completely fast. Because we know Raghunath Das, he was the Ananya Bhakta Srimati Radharani. And Chandravali is in the opposing party. So he refused anything for, even there was for, but Haridas was doing it for his benefit, he refused that thing. Another time, Raghunath Das, he became very ill. The other devotees were concerned, so they brought one Vaidya. That Vaidya began to take his pulse. He says he's suffering from eating too many milk products, too many sweets. Everyone knows Raghunath Das only take a little chach, and that's about it. How is it possible? Then Raghunath Das, he put his head down. He said, actually today in my bhajan, I was in Golok, and the Sakis engaged me to make sweet rice for the divine couple. So I made this nice sweet rice. And they offered it to Radha and Krishna very sweetly. Then they brought the Mahaprasad, and Sakhis were just forcing me to eat the sweet rice. So this was in his Siddha Deha, but it followed all the way back to his Sadhak Deha. Into this material world. It came all the way back. He was suffering from eating too much. Everybody was amazed at Raghunath Das Goswami. Another time, Raghunath Das was thinking that in the future, people will come from all over the world to Radha Kund and Shama Kund. They will come from America, they'll come from Europe, they'll come from Japan, especially they'll come from Russia, Ukraine, they'll come from South America, from Colombia, Ecuador, Argentina, Brazil. They'll come from Canada, from Japan, so many places they'll come. England. There's no proper ghats and no proper facilities. So he was thinking, if I ever got some money, then I will I will excavate the kunds and fix up the ghats very nicely. Because he could see into the future that Prabhupada is going to come and put Vrindavan and Radha Kund on the world map. So he was thinking like that. Then he thought, again I'm thinking about money. Because we know Raghunath Das, he had opulence greater than the king of heaven when he was living in Bengal. He had a wife more beautiful than Apsara. Still he was always running away to try to join Mahaprabhu's movement. His wife, his mother told his father that why don't you tie him with ropes? I said, wealth and women, they can't tie him up. What is my rope going to do? These are the things that is tying everyone in this world. Anyway, how Raghunath Das, he slipped away and got to Puri and joined Mahaprabhu's movement. So he thought, just see, I'm thinking about money again. So he became silent, took Maun Vrat for some time. Meanwhile, in Bengal, there was one big businessman, industrialist. He was thinking to go to Badrinath to offer a large donation there. So he went to Badrinath, and Lord Badri Vishal came in his dream. He said, don't give that donation here. You go to Vrindavan, from Vrindavan you find out Radha Kund, and Radha Kund you find out Raghunath Das Goswami, and you give this donation to him. So those days it wasn't so easy to travel, but anyway, anyhow he made it to Vrindavan. And not that you just went to the welcome center and you got nice taxi. Somehow with great difficulty he got to Radha Kund. He found out Das Goswami. He said, I have a big donation for you. And Raghunath Das said, wherever you came from, you go back. I don't want to see your money. And then Lord had told that man, he will not accept it. But you tell him, Lord knows his desire to fix the kund. So he told him that Lord knows your desire. Immediately Raghunath Das, all right, give that money here. Just like us, not like us. Sometimes we're very anxious to collect donations. But Prabhupada said, not one farthing for sense gratification, only be for the service of the Lord. So, when he understood that the Lord accepted his desire, then he wanted that money to fix up the ghats. So we'll find out another name for this ghat just outside the hall. Because we see that Radha Kund is very square, straight. Because our Radharani, she's very seedy, she's very straight. Boli Gopi Radhara, she's very simple. But we see Krishna Kund is very crooked. Because our Krishna, he's a very crooked fellow. You know why he's crooked? Just like, now don't do this, but when you go fishing, you have a hook that's crooked. It goes like that and goes like that. So that hook will go very easily in, but it will never come out. Like that. So don't do this thing, but anyway, just for example. So same way, our Krishna, he's a very crooked fellow. He will very easily go into your heart, but once he's there, you will never get him out. So his kund is also crooked. And one of the reasons it is crooked, there was some trees in the way for making it straight. So Raghunath Das, he marked those trees. He told them, the workers, in the morning, you cut down these trees. So that night, Yudhishthira Maharaj came in his dream, and he told that myself, Bhima, Arjun, Nakul, Sahadev, we're all here in the form of trees on the bank of Shamakund doing our bhajan. So you please don't disturb us. So Braj is such a special place. We see trees, we just think it's just a tree. But it may be some great sage, we don't know. So they told him in the morning, Yudhishthira told him in the morning he would recognize us. So the morning he came and he recognized those Pancha Pandav trees. So then he told them, don't cut the trees, you make the ghat crooked, like that. So that ghat also has the name Pancha Pandav Ghat. And now all those trees have disappeared before my very eyes. Right on the ghat there's a huge trunk of an old neem tree that dried up right before my very eyes. But all the sadhus and babajis told me this was Bhim. So this is also known as Pancha Pandav Ghat. And Raghunath Das, he writes so many beautiful poetries about Radharani. In fact, one of my favorite verses of his, he says, Karunaya Vidrava Deha. He's talking about Radharani. Karuna we know is compassion. Karunaya means from compassion. Vidravad means to melt. And Deha we know from Bhagavad Gita, Dehinosmin yata dehe komaram jovanam jara. Deha means body. Karunaya vidravad deha. Ordinary persons, their hearts melt with compassion, but Radharani, her whole body melts with compassion. This is how Raghunath Das Goswami describes the compassion of Radharani. Everyone else's heart melts, her whole body melts with compassion. And our Srila Prabhupada has taken those drops of melted compassion and kept them inside his books. And devotees are going here and there and sprinkling those books over all the fallen souls. Even I saw on ISKCON News the other day that now we can't go outside. But people are calling. They've kept contacts all these years, making contacts on Sankirtan. So they're calling up and distributing the melted drops of Radharani's mercy. So anyway, anyhow, nothing can stop. Even this corona cannot stop the karuna of Srila Prabhupada's books. Speaking of books, one time Rupa Goswami, he came to Radha Kund for a short time. Although somehow we find the Bhajan Kutir, Jiva Goswami and many other Bhajan Kutirs there. But we don't find any Bhajan Kutir, but we have history that Rupa Goswami was there. And he happened to give his book, Lalita Madhav, to Raghunath Das. So Vidagdha Madhav is all about the Braj pastimes, and Lalita Madhav is all about Dwarka pastimes. And Dwarka pastimes are full of separation from Krishna. Raghunath Das, he read that book, hearing about the separation of Radharani from Krishna. He would roll on the ground, he'd hold that book to his chest and cry. He practically gave up eating, he practically gave up sleeping. Everyone became worried that Raghunath Das was going to die. They told Rupa Goswami, you do something. So finally, Rupa Goswami, he came there to Radha Kund just for this purpose. And he said, I have to edit that book a little bit. You give me that book. He took that book out of Raghunath's hands. He said, but you can read this new book that I just made, Dana Keli Comedy. All about the tax pastimes in Govardhan Hill. So he gave that book to Raghunath Das, and it's all about wonderful joking pastimes in Radha and Krishna, how they meet in the end. So Raghunath Das was overjoyed by reading this book and was just ecstatic reading this book. So, and just finally, one special place is there in this big hall, just outside the hall actually, is the Bhajan Kutir of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. We know that Krishnadas Kaviraj, he left Bengal because his brother insulted Minaketan Ramdas, who was a great devotee of Lord Nityananda, and his brother had faith in Mahaprabhu but no faith in Nityananda. So when he insulted Minaketan for chanting about Nityananda, then Krishnadas decided, I will not stay with this fellow any longer. And he came to Braj. And the Vaishnavas asked him to write, though he was very old at the time, all about the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. So this book, Chaitanya Charitamrita, is a classic. It is so wonderful, it is so much nectar. And here in Radha Kund is the place where this book was written. All these beautiful verses. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. It is, you cannot study Bengali literature without studying Chaitanya Charitamrita. If you're a karmi, you have to study Chaitanya. It is unique because it is so sweet. Now if you make things very sweet, then very difficult to express philosophical ideas. And if you make a book, philosophy book, then it's filled with big words and everybody moves to sleep. But Raghunath Das with very sweet, Krishnadas Kaviraj with very sweet language and very simple language, he expresses very sweetly the entire deep philosophy of Mahaprabhu. So this is a place where that Chaitanya Charitamrita was actually written. So we can take time during this time to again study Chaitanya Charitamrita. Every time I pick it up, I'm never disappointed. It is complete nectar. This is so wonderful book. So since most of us are stuck, we can't go anywhere, this is a good time to revive our reading of all of these books, especially Chaitanya Charitamrita. So we'll put our voice to rest here. And we hope you'll join us again tomorrow. How many people are there?
Right now 96. Right now 96.
96. Okay, we thank you all for joining us today. We hope you'll all join us tomorrow, or at least you can see the recording later. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.